My name is Stephen Eichler. I'm walking through a Palo Alto neighborhood called Greenmeadow. My grandfather, Joseph Eichler, built this neighborhood 40 years ago. This series celebrates Greenmeadow, still vital after 40 years. This is the fourth in a series of 5 programs about Greenmeadow. In this program, we learn about the Greenmeadow Community Association.
Greenmeadow Community Association was formed, I believe, in 1954 by some of our original residents. It's been functioning ever since then, and our association is a neighborhood association. We have a formal board of directors elected by the residents to a term of 2 years, and we oversee the functioning of the community. We have several very active committees that we oversee. We have an administrative manager. We have, I think, up to 15 lifeguards now that work part-time through the summer and into the swim season. And we have a park and a building and insurance and all kinds of business to run. The association owns quite a bit of property, actually. We have a park that is for members only, which is a beautiful redwood groved park. It connects to the pool, which is a lovely large big pool. And then we have a building which we rent out right now to Discovery Montessori School. That's our community center, and we do use that for some community activities. Although the pool is the centerpiece to a lot of the activities that we do as a community, and it's a main reason why a lot of people join. It's terrific if you have kids, and a lot of us swim laps in the morning, and it's where we have a lot of our events. We also have a lot of non-pool related activities that I think are vital to this organization. The Civic Affairs Committee has been active for decades. I'm not sure how many years, but I bet 25 or 30 years.
The committee, the members of the committee and myself on it, were concerned in keeping Greenmeadow in the same general, had the same general feeling, the same environment that it had when we moved in. And we didn't want it encroached upon by large buildings, any more traffic that was possible. So when something would come up in the neighborhood or around the fringes of the neighborhood that we felt would change the character of Greenmeadow, the community would band together and take a petition to the city council, and members go down there and petition that this not be changed. An example of this was Coverly High School property.
Well, I think one of the biggest contributions that has been our activity in the political realm, where we insisted that what has become the Coverly Educational Center not be developed into any kind of housing that retained its present character. And that was done really by the Civic Affairs Committee, and included such people as Ken Crittenden. He was very active in collecting signatures. But we'd go down to City Hall, you know. The Civic Affairs Committee established a relationship with City Hall, and that's where the 4th of July parade comes in. It doesn't hurt to have the mayor on your side, right? The City Hall, and with the school district, and presumably with other organizations similarly engaged. But when when we got on that Coverly thing over here, we really were hot and heavy. The Planning Commission, of course. Going to the Planning Commission, going to the City Council, getting signatures from everybody and his brother in Greenmeadow. And you can get a lot of signatures out of 270 homes, you know.
We have a standing committee called the Civic Affairs Committee, and with some excellent leadership on that committee, excellent participation, and that committee is charged with the responsibility of being our connection with the city, and any issues, for example, that affect South Palo Alto, particularly those areas that are contiguous to Greenmeadow, that committee is right on top of those issues. So we hear reports from the Civic Affairs Committee at our quarterly meetings. Civic Affairs Committee co-chairs write up reports and publish those in the Meadowlark. So they are sort of our lightning rod. They are our sensing element, you might say, for issues going on in Palo Alto that we need to have input into and to be responsive to.
And essentially, I think their role is to be the liaison between the association and what's happening with city government or city government entities in the city of Palo Alto. And that works both ways. We bring back information to the association members that we have learned through various contacts with the government or by attending meetings, and then we also are the spokespersons for the association when we need to have testimony, if you will, at various meetings. I think the meetings that we probably have had more contact with have been Planning Commission and City Council meetings, but we have also attended various committee meetings and hearings and so forth.
There's a recognized presence within the city that helps if we have any mutual concern. For instance, if somebody in the Planning Commission comes up with a wild idea like putting housing in Coverly Field, which happened one time, or something of this sort, we have a ready way of finding other neighbors who would see eye to eye on such an idea, and we can identify, we can get hold of them, we know their names ahead of time, and this gives a feeling of a small town within a big town.
A second issue was the pedestrian and bicycle bridge over Adobe Creek, which connects connects Walnut Grove Homeowners Association or homeowners area with the Greenmeadow area. And the creek was terrible wording. Concrete lining was put into the creek, and by the Santa Clara Valley Flood Control District, I think is the correct name. It was an entity over which the city of Palo Alto had no influence. They could not by law change that. The Flood Control District wanted to have a very high, large bridge to replace the one that was there, and it would have been out of place for the small area, and it would have been so high that that anybody on the bridge would have easily had been able to see over the fences of the neighbors and into the yards and into the homes. So that proposal was immensely unpopular with the local residents on both sides of the creek, and we couldn't get anywhere with the flood control district, but we did go to City Council and I believe Planning Commission, and eventually City Council took it upon themselves to construct the bridge that we wanted rather than the one that the flood control district. There was a compromise, and we were happy with that. The third issue, other than Coverly, was the matter of getting the planning overlay for Greenmeadow 1, 2, and 3. And we, I'm sorry, the zoning overlay for Greenmeadows 1, 2, and 3. There has been an ongoing issue in the city of Palo Alto about the sizes of the houses. Houses have been remodeled and enlarged so that they're much bigger on their lot than originally planned. And there is a restriction on the houses in Greenmeadow that restricts them to 1 story. That's part of the CC&Rs. But there was no concurrent zoning regulation for the city of Palo Alto. The zoning that's on the city of Palo Alto ordinance regulations, or whatever you call them, was strictly 1 family, a single family residence, and the CC&Rs could be enforced, but we'd have to go to court to do it. So the purpose of our effort was to make the zoning regulations and the CC&Rs be coincident, to make them say the same. And so we had to go through a rather lengthy procedure to get petitions and votes through the individual votes from each homeowner, not each resident, but each homeowner. And we had hearings, and we had to notify people of the hearings. We sent out, I think, 440 postcards as required by law to notify all the residents and the neighbors. And we went to Planning Commission, and they wanted some more information, so we came back and got it, and went back to Planning Commission, and then they approved our request and recommended that the City Council adopt it.
In the case of the single-family overlay restriction, that had both local implications and actually citywide implications. And I think the council was very careful to craft the ultimate ordinance in a way to assure itself that if this request came from other communities, that they could proceed in a way that they could be assured that the neighborhood that was affected would be truly supportive of that kind of request. I think the fact that it has had over the years an active community association has been reflected in the effectiveness of this community when it has appeared before city councils, before the one that I am currently sitting on. I think that the City Council has been well aware of the fact that when the Greenmeadow Community Association represents itself at a City Council forum, because of the way the association conducts its business, the City Council can be assured that when a representative of the association speaks for the association, that they truly do represent the vast majority of homeowners in the area. And that gives any governing body a great deal of comfort.
A blockhead is a person, designated person on a row of about 10 houses or 12 houses who is willing to be the contact between the association and the individual residents. And it is therefore the responsibility of the blockhead to deliver the monthly meadow larks, and if there is a vote that needs to be taken about something, for instance, whether we should renew our covenant things or change them, then it's the responsibility of the blockhead to contact each house. If we are wanting to get an active petition going because we want to get a footbridge, or if we want to get Cubberley Center declared a city park or something, then the blockhead would be asked to solicit on her block and get signatures. The blockhead is supposed always to come to the quarterly meetings so that if there is a problem on her particular or his particular street, that it can be brought before the association.
One person in each block of about, or each group of about 12 to 14 houses who distributes the local newsletter and goes to the board meeting, not board meetings, but the community meetings as a representative of that little group, and welcomes people as they arrive or makes little articles for them in the newsletter and in the Meadowlark. It's not a very onerous task, but it's a sort of part of the communication system within this community.
That's one of the things that's special about this neighborhood as well. It seems like I probably overlooked it because it seems like a very normal, natural thing, but it is something that doesn't happen in most neighborhoods, and that is the communication that takes place within this neighborhood through our blockhead system. And I think that communication has kept us in touch with each other as a neighborhood, and also I think in recent years has kept residents of Greenmeadow in touch with the larger Palo Alto neighborhood, because we are distributing things like flyers about citywide activities and about important meetings that are taking place in the city, and distributing information from the League of Women Voters on ballot measures. So it is a tie among not only ourselves, but between the Greenmeadow community and the larger community.
The Greenmeadow Board of Directors meets on a monthly basis, and we hear committee reports from the various committees that have been functioning. We also are responsible for holding a meeting on a quarterly basis for the entire membership, and we do that in January, April, July, and October. And those meetings are a really good opportunity for all of the community members to come together and find out what's been going on, to air their views and their thoughts, their ideas, and really participate in running the community.
Possibly one of the most exciting experiences I've had in Greenmeadow began in 1988 when we started looking at the future, and we said we're only a couple years away from the 1990s. And we were beginning to think about, well, what changes need to go on in Greenmeadow if we're going to have a successful decade of the 1990s. And we had some special meetings at the community center building, and we talked about this. We had just recently formed, in the fall of 1987, the President's Advisory Council, which was made up of former board members and former presidents of Greenmeadow who served as a advisory group that was available to the current president of Greenmeadow on whatever matters the president wanted to go to that group for. And so out of that advisory group and out of some of the special meetings in Greenmeadow came a concern for the management of Greenmeadow. And there was a concern that we needed to update and upgrade our management structure in Greenmeadow. We didn't know exactly how, but there was a concern. So we formed a subcommittee of the President's Advisory Council called the Management Structure Subcommittee. And Ken Crittenden and Elith Burns were named the co-chairs. And there, I think, were 7 more members of that subcommittee, and I was one of them. We met for 13 months on a continuous basis and studied this whole management structure issue very carefully. And we visited other sort of similar organizations to see how they were managed. Out of the 13 months research, there came a conclusion that we needed to hire a full-time administrative manager who was skilled not only in matters relating to the pool, but in matters relating to buildings and grounds, upkeep, and also to financial matters, budgetary matters, etc. A person with fairly wide-ranging knowledge and skills, which we hadn't had before. Prior to that position, we'd had a pool manager who was not really full-time. So that was our conclusion. We took that conclusion to the current board, recommended it to the board bought into it, and they in turn recommended it to the whole association, and by a vote of 40 affirmative and 8 negative, the position of administrative manager in January of 1990 was approved.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine today. How are you?
Good. Who are you?
I'm Chris Kachowski, and I'm the administrative manager.
What does that mean?
I administrate. No, I organize, and the money that comes through the facility to keep the pool open, and the people that we hire and train and coordinate most of the special events and stuff like that.
And this is a full-time job?
Full-time job, yeah.
How did you find out about it?
I knew the previous administrative manager. Yeah.
And why did you want to do this?
It was a big jump for me on the learning curve, from just being a pool manager to getting all that extra responsibility of being in charge of all the money that comes through the club, the financial part of it, and the organization too. And working with volunteers, that was a big thing that I didn't do before.
Really? So what types of involvements do you participate in as far as these events? And
for the 4th of July, you know, everybody who needed supplies had to come to me, and I work closely with the social committee on what's going to happen, like the field games. The field games are being put on by the lifeguards, so we discuss what games they're going to do, and the pool games later this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, other things besides the 4th of July?
Oh yeah, there's lots of things. We have a Halloween hunt that we pretty much do a haunted pool. We do a haunted pool. An Easter egg hunt, a spring egg hunt we do. And those are both of those are really staff. The staff does a lot of those, and so do the volunteers. I'm sure there's more.
The Meadowlark is the little local newspaper, okay, that's been in existence almost, I guess, since day one, which comes out once a month, and I've already received my copies for the month of May. It's put out by Joe Mandel, and it's a little local newspaper. But I used to refer to it when I was editor as the greatest Palo Alto newspaper south of Charleston Road. You know, well, was there any competition? I doubt it. I could say that with impunity, right?
The Greenmeadow community organizes lots of events all year long. We have a pretty full calendar. We have a Memorial Day picnic and a Labor Day picnic, which are potluck events in the park where everyone brings their favorite dish, and it's really a fun time to just, in a very informal way, get to know your neighbors. We have a house and garden tour, which we've been having for years and years, where neighbors can go and do a tour of the neighborhood looking at 5 or 10 different houses that have been either redone or remodeled, or gardens that have just been done.
Gee, Elif, do you know what season this is?
Well, it's spring. I know that.
Yeah, and you know what that means?
The house and garden tour.
Right. Isn't that great? You know how people really enjoy seeing the house and garden tour and what people have done to their homes? And
people look forward to it year after year. They wait for it to get ideas before they remodel their own home. I don't know that there's any thing that happens in Greenmeadow that's quite as distinctive.
Right, that's true. Now,
the house and garden tour started probably about 25, 30 years ago, and we have a committee that's made up of different people every year. This year, Elith Burns, Gail Schiffman, and myself, Terry Silverman, were on the committee. And we have a certain amount of houses, usually anywhere between 4 to 6 houses on the tour.
People will show anything that they've remodeled in the past year or so. They'll show a garden, they'll show a kitchen, they'll show a bathroom or a bedroom. Some people show their whole house that they've remodeled.
I think one activity that really can't be stressed enough is the swim team. It affects, you know, many, many homes, many, many families. And that is our major activity organized activity for young people. Other than that, in recent years we've had the junior lifeguard program, which is excellent, but that really only affects maybe half a dozen young people. The swim team currently has about 100 members. Now, it hasn't always been that large, but it affects almost every family in a positive way. And my wife and I, for example, were swim team parents for 18 years of the 26 years that we've lived here. And there is a spirit about the swim team that is just incomparable. I remember when our son joined the swim team when he was 7, and he hadn't been on the team very long. When he came home, and he said, he was very excited, and he said that a 14-year-old young man on the team, Steve Whitty, who was an outstanding swimmer at the time, had taken him aside, and he said, "I'm going to teach you a racing dive." So Steve taught our son a racing dive. The coach didn't ask Steve to do that. Steve did it on his own initiative, and it, of course, made all the difference in the world to our son. That's an example of what goes on the swim team. Young or older swimmers helping out younger swimmers. And while we're not in the business of trying to train Olympic swimmers, rather we're in the business of a youth activity where young people can come together and enjoy each other and improve their skills. The ethic of helping each other across ages is I think very rare these days, and I think it's kind of a testimonial to the spirit of Greenmeadow.
In the next program in this series about Greenmeadow, we'll attend the Greenmeadow 4th of July parade. This is Stephen Eichler. I hope you'll join me then.